Back in 2019, this whole thing was treated like a real estate joke. Today, it's a full-blown geopolitical ultimatum. Welcome to The Explainer. We're going to dig into why the US has suddenly declared that anything less than control of Greenland is unacceptable. What on earth changed? Well, let's find out.
All right, let's just dive right in with the statement that basically lit the fuse on this whole crisis. President Trump's declaration that anything less than U.S. control of Greenland is now unacceptable. Look, this wasn't just some off-the-cuff tweet. No, this was a formal declaration, and it completely changed the game.
So you have to ask, how did we get here so fast? I mean, the shift from a kind of quirky real estate idea to an urgent national security crisis, it wasn't gradual, not at all. It happened in just a few critical days that completely flipped the script on the entire situation.
Just look at how quickly this thing escalated. On January 3rd, you have a successful military op in Venezuela. Okay, just 4 days later, there's a vow to get Greenland the easy way or the hard way. So what does this timeline tell us? It really suggests the administration felt emboldened, like it was translating a win in the Caribbean into a super aggressive new posture in the Arctic. The entire game changed in less than 2 weeks.
But, this new aggression isn't just about political momentum, it's about geography. The Arctic itself is literally transforming before our eyes, from what we thought of as a frozen wasteland into the world's next great strategic chessboard.
As that ice recedes, brand new strategic opportunities are just appearing. Take the Northwest Passage, for example. We're talking about slashing shipping times between Asia and Europe by thousands of kilometers. And let's be real, whoever controls those routes has immense economic and military leverage.
And of course, with new opportunities comes a classic great power competition. The US wants to lock down what it calls its northern flank. Russia is beefing up its already significant military presence. And then you've got China, which, this is fascinating, despite having no Arctic coastline at all, has cleverly declared itself a near-Arctic state to justify pushing its economic influence with a polar Silk Road.
So here's where it gets really interesting. There's this massive discrepancy. The administration is claiming there's an imminent threat, with the president even saying he's seen Russian destroyers from Air Force One. But when you talk to our Nordic allies, or Danish intelligence, or you look at independent maritime tracking data, they all say those ships simply aren't there.
So, what is it that makes Greenland so incredibly valuable? It's not just one thing. It really boils down to two key factors: its unmatched military position and its vast, completely untapped mineral wealth. Let's start with the military value, which is just immense. Patuxent Space Base isn't just another outpost. As the U.S. military's northernmost installation, it's the critical nerve center for spotting missile threats coming over the pole and for controlling our satellites. It is, quite literally, America's unblinking eye on the top of the world.
And it goes beyond missile defense. Its geography is absolutely vital. If you control Greenland, you effectively control the GIUK gap. That's a critical naval choke point for watching any Russian and Chinese naval movements from the Arctic out into the North Atlantic.
And then you've got the resources. Hiding right there under the ice, Greenland is basically a treasure chest of rare earth elements. We're talking about the fundamental building blocks of our modern world. Everything from electric vehicles and wind turbines to the most advanced military technology.
And this chart right here shows you the chokehold. China controls 85% of the global refining capacity for these minerals. Now for the West, that's not just a supply chain headache, it is a massive strategic vulnerability. And that vulnerability makes Greenland the single most important prize in the race to break that dependency.
Now, this aggressive new stance, it isn't happening in a vacuum. It's being driven by a really clear shift in foreign policy, something people have started calling the Donrow Doctrine. Think of it as a 21st century twist on a 19th century idea. The original Monroe Doctrine basically warned European powers to stay out of the Americas. This Donrow Doctrine is way more expansionist. It's a declaration that the U.S. will use hard power to actively go out and secure territories it thinks are vital. It's not just about playing defense anymore. As one staffer bluntly put it, we're a superpower. We are going to conduct ourselves as a superpower.
And this slide really captures that core shift in thinking. In the first term, it was all transactional, framed as a large real estate deal. But now, the language has changed completely. Now it's an immediate national security necessity. That's a shift from a potential purchase to a non-negotiable demand.
So, okay, what is really at stake here? This ultimatum puts so much more than just an island on the line. It really challenges the entire international order that's been in place since the end of World War II.
The first and most immediate risk is to NATO itself. Denmark is a founding member of the alliance, and Greenland is Danish territory. That means any military move would be considered an attack on the alliance itself, putting its core principle, Article 5, the Collective Defense Clause, to the ultimate test.
And hey, don't just take my word for it. The Danish Prime Minister laid out the stakes in the starkest possible terms. As she said, a U.S. attack on another NATO country means everything would stop. Not a diplomatic crisis, not a strained relationship, but the end of the alliance. And crucially in all this, we can't forget about the 57,000 people who actually live in Greenland. As this chart makes crystal clear, public opinion there is overwhelmingly against a U.S. takeover. Their leaders have been firm. The future of Greenland must be decided by Greenlanders.
But the stakes might be even bigger than NATO. This could shatter a fundamental rule of the modern world, a rule established after World War II, that powerful countries do not just take territory from other countries by force. A U.S. takeover would set a dangerous precedent, and it could potentially unwind the very principle that holds international law together.
So, with U.S. and Danish officials now in these critical talks and military rhetoric escalating on both sides, the entire world is watching to see what happens next in this Arctic flashpoint.
And all of this leaves us with the critical question for the future of global security. Is this ultimatum over one island just the opening move in a new, much more confrontational era of Arctic power politics? I guess we're all going to have to wait and see.